Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I say that when thinking about what I was going to say in this debate, I made a number of efforts to write a speech, but thought that it was difficult to judge how this debate was going to be conducted, whether it was going to be like stage one, whether things would have moved on. And I have to say to the Minister, I regret in the strongest terms the tone that she chose to use in introducing the Scottish Government's position. I don't think she served her own party well to impugn the motives of everybody in this chamber who disagrees with her, and captures in a description of what happened at the weekend the suggestion that people in here celebrated that, thought it was a good idea, or in any way approved of it. The fact of the matter is that there's no monopoly, as has already been said, of concern about sectarianism in this chamber. I recall from the very beginning, when this legislation first came into being, the troubled way, the way in which we, on our benches, tested it, worried about it. I did it as Justice spokesperson and as leader. I did not take the decision lightly to support James Kelly's legislation. And it is offensive, if I might use that term, to suggest otherwise. It is not whether we support sectarianism or not. The issue is how best to tackle it. And at the heart of this bill, there is a problem, that it conflates being offensive with being sectarian. And as a consequence, people are caught up in legislation with no means of avoiding it. And we've heard all sorts of examples of that. And I find it deeply offensive that there is a suggestion that everybody else in this chamber is somehow irresponsible and have not thought these through issues in great detail. And I know that there were people, including the churches, who wanted us to tackle the question of sectarianism. But I doubt very much if those same churches, the same organisations, thought that young people should be caught up in the legal system for wearing a Che Guevara T-shirt or having the audacity to express a political view. Don't call them in defence of your position. They were arguing about the question of sectarianism, not about the merits of this legislation. And again today we hear the argument about the fact that it sends out a message. We have already said, and we've heard in here, that this characterisation of football and football fans is simply wrong. It does not happen routinely, even in the old firm matches and games that people support. It doesn't routinely happen at Pollock Football Ground. It doesn't happen in grounds across the country. And we need to name the problem in order to deal with it. It also, we're told, sends out a message about our views on sectarianism. I'm not sure how much of a comfort that would be to me if my son or my daughter got caught up in the legal system for doing something they were not even aware was an offence. None of us would want that for a member of our family, and yet that is the reality for all too many people who've been caught up by this legislation. And also, what message does it, in all seriousness, send out about our commitment to tackling sectarianism when the budgets for programmes that educate our young people, that talk about these issues, have been cut from £3 million to £500,000? The reality of this, there is hard, heavy lifting to be done on this. Not simply pass the legislation and hope for the best. You actually need to do the heavy job of winning hearts and minds on these issues. There is no easy fix. But of course, the other argument that is deployed is, as I've said, to impugn the motives of the political parties who oppose the SNP's legislation in this regard. Now, that argument might work in here. It might work as some comfort to SNP backbenchers who have been whipped into supporting it, that the only reason we're doing this is because we oppose them politically. But we are talking not about what works in here, but the reality out there in the real world.
Can you please conclude?
Sure. I urge people to support James Kelly's bill, because out there in the real world, it is not working. It's having dire consequences, and experts and individuals from across Scotland have told us that. We have a duty to listen to them.
Thank you very much.